What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to Probability for UFC Vegas 76. We got Sean Strickland going against Abus Magomedov. We got a 12-fight card to break down and hoping to bounce back after the massacre last week where just everything went wrong. A lot of unexpected outcomes. Hopefully to bring it back earth on this card. Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to UFC Vegas 76?
Yeah, man, it's a fun card. A lot of really fun fights. A lot of interesting lines too. So this is going to be a good show today. There's some spots sticking out. I think that there are some plays. I think sometimes in certain cases the numbers mean almost nothing because you're counting on the durability of fighters involved. And then in other times, I think we've got good sample sizes and the data is going to be a great guide for us. But either way, whether it's stylistic reads or data-driven reads, I'm finding some on this card, and I'm looking forward to bouncing them off of you and seeing what you think of them. And also wishing you a happy birthday, Brady. 25 years old today. Happy birthday to you. And thank you to everybody that's joining us here on the MMA Engine for Probability today. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys.
Appreciate you, Weezy. That's why we're doing the video a little bit late. I had some birthday business to take care of. Had some family time, had some wife time, and here we are. Made myself a nice coffee. I realize it's like 10 o'clock. I probably shouldn't have made a coffee. It's like a double shot in there. I'm gonna be up late, but it is what it is. I do want to shout out Victor. He has a max bet, Weezy. A max bet on Brady not wearing a hat today.
He knew it was your birthday, dude. He knew you weren't going to be wearing a hat because you were going to be around your mom, and your mom, who's your barber, would be like, let that beautiful head of hair flow. So you're doing that on your birthday. Good stuff. And a great bet by Victor. I'm sure he cashed off of Lou Bet-Ya here, and now Lou is going to be turning out his pockets down 5 units here.
Great bet. What is up, everybody? If you guys can, please hit the like button, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. We do appreciate all the support. We are here every Monday breaking down some props. One of my favorite shows of the week. All right, Weezy, I say we get right into it, and we're going to kick it off with a very interesting fight. We have Alexander Romanov going against Blagoy Ivanov. We have the over-under set at 1.5 rounds, the over 1.5 minus 185 now, the under 1.5 plus 155. Some money came in on that under. The fight goes to decision plus 175. The fight doesn't go to decision is minus 215. So, Weezy, I know you have a pretty big bet on this fight. I'll be looking to bet probably the same thing, but I need to see the weigh-ins. I need to see whether or not Alexander Romanov put any effort whatsoever into his training camp. I mean, I remember last time he showed up and I'm like, what was he doing all camp? I mean, he looked terrible. It looked like he just laid on the couch for the entire training camp. He looked awful. And I want to see if Romanov put some effort in this camp. If he did, there's some spots I'm looking at. And if he didn't, there's some spots I'm looking at. So my analysis really comes down to how he looks on the scales. But right now, Weezy, we got a under 1.5 that money's coming in on. And me and you talked a little bit about the over 1.5 last night at minus 190, but it's got even better now. So what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, so what do they have the under 1.5 at right now?
155.
155, and it's like minus 185 for the over?
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, so, in this one, we've got a trifecta bet here for the fight goes to decision at plus 195. 1 of 7 of Romanov's fights have went to decision, but 6 of 6 for Ivanov have. So right there, that's a 53% combined fight goes to decision rate in 13 fights for these two fighters at the UFC level. So that's 19.9, basically 20% better than the price of the line, which is 33.9%. So we're liking that quite a bit there. In addition to that, it's actually underpriced according to the benchmark because 38% of heavyweight fights go to decision. We're only paying 34% here. So I'm going to be taking a look at this fight goes to decision at plus 195 because the way I see it, Blagoy Ivanov is going to be very difficult to finish. Now, this matchup is a little bit different, Brady, because Romanov's not a guy who's going to finish you with his boxing or his kickboxing. He's going to take you down, get on top of you, and pound you out. And that's where your durability doesn't matter as much because the referee can just step in. If you're finding yourself in bad spots underneath this guy, Romanov, all the durability in the world doesn't matter if you're pinned and can't move, because then the referee is going to pull him off of you. So I actually do think if there's one guy that can finish Ivanov, it would be like a Romanov type, or somebody that's got really good takedowns and really good submissions, for instance. So I'm concerned a little bit about that bet, but also it's a Blagoy Ivanov fight. I mean, that guy has never finished anybody at the UFC level, and he's one of these. He's like a Marvin Vettori type. You could just hit him right across the head with a baseball bat, and he's going to keep coming. You're not knocking this dude out. So definitely like the overs here, but in more so than in any Blagoy fight, Brady, this is interesting because his counterpart is Romanov. Romanov showed piss poor conditioning against Alexander Volkov, like you mentioned, like he had just gotten off the couch for that fight. And that's why we talked about it on Stat Figures, that I think that, there's no such thing as a fascinating Blagoy Ivanov fight. But this is a fascinating fight, dude, because, you've got a matchup where it depends on who sets the pace of this fight, that we could get two completely different outcomes here. So I'm leaning over. I'm putting my trust in the durability of Blagoy Ivanov here. And I also made a big bet, Brady, 2.5 units on the finish only prop for Blagoy Ivanov at plus 200. And the way I look at that is, I'm looking at it as there's a very good chance that I just get my money back, and I'm fine with that. But if Romanov does show up out of shape, if he does try to get 2 takedowns in the first minute and a half unsuccessfully, and then has his mouth wide open, and there's 13 and a half more minutes against Blagoy Ivanov, and you're tired, and you might be looking for a way out, and Blagoy can show you that. So I think that, this fight could go to decision. I think it could go over, but I kind of feel like a lot of the finishing equity is with Blagoy because of his durability and because of the fact that he doesn't gas out after 3 minutes, and that, he's got that, ability to be able to withstand punishment that really nobody's finishing this dude.
Yeah, I don't hate it, especially at that price tag. And I also agree with Lou. Just live bet Blagoy after 19 seconds. No, but I do want to see Romanov on the scale. I'm probably not going to bet the fight up until Friday, but we'll see how he looks. Because last time was like bad, and you can't fight in the UFC with only 1 minute of cardio. I mean, you just can't against anybody. Even so, if he does gas out in 60 seconds, Blagoy is going to finish him.
Yeah, exactly. And and even I think if Romanov shows up looking good, I think maybe that's when you hit the fight goes.
Yes,
because if he doesn't look good, I think there's much more of a chance that Romanov does get finished. But I am worried about it, Brady. Most opponents for Blagoy Ivanov, I would be like, I am not worried about Blagoy getting finished. But Romanov, with that top game, that ground and pound, that forearm choke, I could see him actually finishing Ivanov here. So I'm going to tread lightly, wait for a little more information here as the week goes on. But I saw that plus 200 on the finish only prop. I'm trying to win 5 units, dude. 2.5 unit bet to win 5. I'm banking on the durability of the guy who lived through getting stabbed in the heart.
Respect. I like it. That'll be a huge hit if you hit that. But at the very worst, hopefully it pushes for you. So we shall see. All right, let's move on then to the next fight. We have Ivana Petrovic going against Luana Carolina. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 minus 245. The under 2.5 is plus 195. The fight goes the distance minus 215. The fight doesn't go the distance plus 175. So I was taking a hard look at the under 2.5 rounds. They had it at around plus 240 at one point. Should have pulled the trigger, did not pull the trigger, and now it's like plus 195. The only thing that I don't like about this under is I don't think Carolina has a ton of finishing equity, and the books tend to agree. They have Carolina inside the distance at plus 900, which is wild. So I think if I'm gonna bet violence, I probably just bet Petrovic, but I think she's pretty bad. I told you earlier before the show, Weezy, like I was breaking down this fight today. I'm like, I almost had a stroke trying to pick a winner. So I think it's probably best to just stay away, but it's probably violence or pass. Super, super low level fight that's making my head hurt even thinking about it.
Yeah, and with Petrovic, you got somebody that's really only got 6 fights, but when you watch the tape on her, she's solid. You know, the boxing seems to be okay because she's long, she's got a good frame for the division, she's tall, so she kind of uses that pretty well when she's at range. But her striking is nothing more than serviceable for the UFC level. But when she gets on top, she's good.
Okay.
And she gets takedowns in close, like with trips and sweeps and reaps, things like that. So I could see this fight getting into the clinch. I could see Petrovic maybe getting a takedown or two and doing some damage on top. Yeah, the under 2.5 at plus 240 would have been very, very tempting. But at plus 195, I think it's priced pretty fairly here. And stylistically, it's kind of hard to see either girl getting a finish here because even though Petrovic is finishing 5 of 6 wins on the regional scene, you know, one of them came in the 4th round. One of them was a late 3rd round finish, and they're against, lower level competition than Luana Carolina. So yeah, fight goes to decision at minus 215 probably hits. The over 2.5 at minus 245 probably hits. But are you laying that kind of juice when one of the fighters involved is a 6-0 debutante? I don't think so, man. And I don't. 175 and 195 for the fight doesn't go in the under 2.5 respectively. Not enough meat on the bone for me to go chasing what would be against my stylistic read for the fight, which is going to decision. So yeah, it's probably a stay away on this one, dude.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stay away. At 240, I was very tempted because I think she could potentially get on top of Carolina and finish her. But at that point, like I said, she's only like plus 210 inside the distance. Yeah, that's not trash. I'm staying away. I was actually tempted on betting Luana Carolina.
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude. If you're sitting there on your prediction video and you literally can't find the words to make a prediction, and one fighter's minus 210 and she's a debutante and only has 6 fights, and the other one is plus 180, you almost have to make that bet, especially because you're betting a plus 180 women's underdog, not just any underdog. The kind of underdog where the favorites are regularly screwing people over
all the time. Yeah.
Last time I laid minus 200 on a woman, it was Corey McKenna. I still wake up in the middle of the night sweating and screaming.
Oh gosh, yeah. The last time I did was Loma Lukbunmi, and she got it done. But there were some sketchy moments against Elise Reed.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Loma got the job done for you. I'm glad that she did too.
Yeah, and prior to that, it was Lupe Godinez against Angela Hill.
Yeah, see, we've all got our stories, don't we?
Yeah. We can go on. We can make a whole show about it. Gina Mazzani, the list goes on. But we'll move on. We have Guram Kutateladze going against Elvis Brenner. And we have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. We got to pick them here. Over 2.5 minus 115. Under 2.5 minus 115. Fight goes to decision plus 115. Fight doesn't go to decision minus 145. Brenner, super tough. 3 losses, all by decision. My worry here is I think there's going to be just a massive skill discrepancy on the feet here. I don't think it's going to be close. So maybe Guram can get out of there. But Brenner's super tough. I guess I would lean over ever so slightly. But I don't know. I really think a pick was about right. I think it could go either way. Weez, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, we don't have much of a sample size here for UFC fights for these two, but I don't think Kutateladze has ever been finished as a pro, and I know that Brenner hasn't. So, yeah, you got 2 durable guys, and even though there might be a skill gap here, I don't know if Kutateladze is a UFC level knockout artist. Especially not against somebody that has never been finished and has fought good competition on the regional scene, like somebody like Elvis Brenner. So, yeah, I'm leaning over here. But the last time that Kutateladze was fighting Brady, they hung me a plus 160 over 2.5, or maybe it was plus 140. Whatever it was, It was a lot better than minus 115. So am I running to the window to lay juice on an over 2.5 rounds in a Kutateladze Brenner fight? Hell no. Am I even getting to the window for plus 115 on a fight goes? You know, I mean, like I think I feel like I want more. You know, give me plus 135. Now maybe I'm walking up to that window and saying, all right, 1 unit, you know. But right here, not laying juice for violence. And I'm not, I'm staying away, dude. But it should be noted, even though it's only a 3-fight sample size, we do have a trifecta bet here at plus 115. It's underpriced according to the benchmark, and they're obviously very much underpriced because all 3 of their fights have went to decision, but super small sample size. So these numbers really don't mean a lot.
Yeah, I think it's good stay away here for sure. So
agreed.
Yep, I'll stay away. Let's move on to the next fight. We got Karol Hosa going against Yana Santos. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over juiced to minus 300. The under plus 240. The fight goes the distance minus 275. The fight doesn't go plus 215. I mean, I think it obviously goes over. The one thing I would be concerned about is if Yana Santos is washed, checked out, etc. But I don't really see a finish in this one. Do you, Easy?
Yeah, I mean, it's Yana Santos, but ever since she's been Mama Santos, it's not been the same girl, you know? So laying minus 300, according to the sample size of fights that we have for these two ladies at this level, Brady, I mean, 85.7% of their combined 14 fights have seen the scorecards. And the 2 for Santos that haven't, I believe it's the Aspen Ladd fight and the Chris Cyborg fight.
And the Aldana fight was round 1, too.
Oh, well, okay. So one of those was scheduled for 5 rounds. So that's why she only has 7 fights here listed on the prop template, is because these are only 3-round fights. So, okay. So she's been finished 3 times then.
Yeah.
Is what we're okay. Karol Hosa has never finished anybody at the UFC level, and she's got, I think, 4 or 5 wins. So, yeah, I mean, like, I think that if you're of the opinion that Yana Santos is training hard, looking to win this fight, over minus 300 for the over 2.5 could potentially be a parlay piece, Brady. But there's a big narrative sort of Damocles hanging over our head if we lay minus 300 on this over, and that's, does Yana Santos give a shit about fighting anymore?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, the answer might be no. And if the answer is no, and you laid minus 300, you're gonna be very, very disappointed.
Yep, I thought you broke it down perfectly. The big question is, does Yana give a shit? If so, should go to decision easily. If not, maybe it does finish. But I do lean towards it finishing, but not a fight. Just in general, I don't really want to put any money on, like a total, a prop, money line. It's just a weird fight.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this is going to be like the last one that I break down before I go live for just the tip. You know, it's just like, and then that way, if I'm late, you know, if things don't go as quickly as I thought, then I could just be like, guys, didn't watch much tape here, but what do you want from me? You know, I like Hosa here. You know, so yeah, it's kind of a stay away, but you know, like I say, if you have some insider information that Yana's ready to go, that she's going to bounce back from the Holly Holm fight. And you look at who Yana's been fighting. She's like, her last 3 or 4 fights have all been top-notch competition. Yeah. So this is a little bit of a step down for her. She doesn't have to cut down to 135 as well. This is going to be at 145 against the short notice Hosa here. Yeah, I mean, like, I guess minus 300, the over 2.5 would be the bet that I would make. But it would have to be a parlay, and it'd have to be a small parlay. You know?
Yeah, I mean, gun to my head, give me the over.
Me too. Yeah.
Luckily, nobody's taking a gun to my head.
Yeah, we don't need that. Not on your birthday, for God's sake. Let them wait until next week to put a gun to your head and make you bet something you don't want to bet.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We have a sanctioned murder potentially. We have Joe Anderson Brito going against Weston Wilson. I'm still not convinced this guy's even. I mean that name sounds so made up to me, but we're gonna see if he shows up and he's real. But I'm not convinced just yet. The over under set at 1.5. They don't have props out for this fight yet, Weezy, and I don't blame them. They don't want to put anything out. The under is juiced to -260. And a 1.5. You heard that right. The over is +200. We were talking about this earlier today, Weezy, talking about how this is probably the most overpriced total ever on the show. And it probably hits. So what do you like here, Weezy?
Yeah, so let's look at it. Let's have some fun, you guys. -260 for an under 1.5 is absolutely bonkers. In the featherweight, and it's the featherweight division, which has the lowest finish rate, but of any division besides the men's flyweight division, right? So -260 for an under 1.5 is 72.22% implied probability on that line. Only 27% of featherweight fights end in 7.5 minutes or less. So we're overpaying by 45% when you compare the benchmark, the long-term benchmark for the division, to the implied probability of the line. And so, when I saw that number, I was like, when I see a number like that for an under 1.5, Brady, I'm almost saying to myself, you almost have to bet the over 1.5. So I'm like, all right, well, let me look at the numbers, right? So I look. Weston Wilson has been under 1.5 rounds 20 of 23 times in his pro career when fights that have been scheduled for 3 rounds, and for Brito outside the UFC was 10 of 15. So, 79% of their combined fights have went under 1.5 rounds. And for Brito at the UFC level, it's 2 of 3. So yeah, I mean, this is as unbettable as it gets, because you should not be betting the over. not to be a contrarian, not all I got to do is be right 1 out of 3 times to break even. You're going to be wrong 97 out of 100 times if you bet this fight to go over 1.5 rounds 100 times. It's just that kind of a fight. So, but you cannot lay -260 on an under 1.5. The price is just absolutely ridiculous. It's like being a trader and just buying the high. And then announcing it to all your friends when you bought it that this is the best buy ever, and then you paid the highest that anybody ever paid for it, and then it goes straight down. That's what -260 is for an under 1.5. It's literally unbettable.
Yep, for sure. I know our guy Propaholic got -105. I mean, that it was out for a while too. It went from +160 to -105 to -115 to -130. I was sleeping the whole time. We see
that would have been so awesome to get that. I mean, because this guy Weston Wilson, 21 of 23 under 2.5, 20 of 23. But only 5 of his 23 fights as a pro have even gotten out of round 1.
Yeah.
And he's getting starched too. This guy's got 7 losses on his record, and it's not like he's durable. No. So yeah, this is a great violent spot, but the bookies are all over it. It's just a straight pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna obviously wait to see what other books have out for some other props. I'll probably be touching something in this fight, but not -260 on an under. Hopefully they have some playable props out, but judging by the line, probably not. I mean, this is one of the most lopsided fights I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Joe Anderson Brito probably shouldn't be -1250 against anybody in the UFC outside of Weston Wilson, who, like I said, I think he's a made up character. To be honest, I don't know if he's real.
Yeah,
we're gonna find out.
That's like the name you give to the cops as a kid when you get caught trying to drink beer without any ID on you. It's like your Weston Wilson, your Cherith Cute story, your what's the name of the guy that Weston Wilson beat? Suksan Simpleman. My name is Suksan Simpleman, officer. Yes. And that's not my beer.
Oh my gosh. Dixon in the chat brought up a good point. What do you think about the the DQ prop for Weston Wilson? Brito knees a down opponent.
Oh, I mean, that's his path, isn't it?
That's his path. A TQ.
It could be a TQ or just like literally like a heart attack, you know, for
Yeah.
Joe Anderson Brito. Just something horrible, like a hawk comes flying into the apex and snacks out one of his eyes. You know, man, I just don't see how Weston gets the job done here, man.
Is it Shavkat's hawk or is it the same?
It might be too.
Lou brought up a good play. Just parlay Bo Nickel and Brito for minus 601.
10 units to win 1.67. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
I mean, I think that one hits, so that's good. Okay. Let's move on. By the way, I can't believe they're letting this Brito. I have a feeling it gets canceled because this fight should not be happening. You see the way this Wilson guy has been getting knocked out by these like trash cans. It's bad, man.
Yeah, dude, but he is on a 4-fight winning streak, so maybe the UFC is like, dude, we can catch a body, and if they ask us why we sanctioned the fight, we could be like, hey, he was on a 5-fight winning streak. The guy's got to win over Soupson Simpleman, you know? I mean, we thought he was ready, you know?
Petition to get Soupson Simpleman in the UFC.
He's 8-13, but the record is very deceiving, Brady. I just think he took some fights that he shouldn't have taken, you know?
Yeah, agreed. All right. Let's move on. Then we have Kevin Lee going against Rinat Fakhretdinov. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 140. The under 2.5 is plus 110. And yeah, I kind of like the over here, just due to the fact that I'm not convinced Rinat gets a finish against anybody in the UFC after his last 2 fights. I mean, Andreas Michailidis, he gassed out after 5 minutes. That's kind of what he does. Prior to the Fakhretdinov fight, Michailidis was finished in all of his losses, and Rinat Fakhretdinov could not get him out of there. That's a huge red flag to me. I think this fight goes the distance. I actually think if there's a finish, it's probably like Kevin Lee finishing Rinat Fakhretdinov, but I kind of like the over here. Minus 140. I don't think that's terrible for a Fakhretdinov fight, who, like I said, just not finishing anybody in the UFC. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, dude. 100%. Rinat, I had a max bet, Brady, on the under 2.5 rounds for Fakhretdinov's debut against Andreas Michailidis.
What line was it?
It was minus 110.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was minus 110. I was like, fuck it. I'm winning like 4.7 units. This guy Michailidis has 2.5 minutes of gas.
Yeah.
And Michailidis was cutting down to 170 for the first time in his career. Fakhretdinov was cutting down to 170 for the first time in his career. And Fakhretdinov had like a 90% finish rate. You know, Michailidis had been finished in all of his losses. And so I was like, this is a smack. I'm max betting it. And of course, it went all the way to decision and it really didn't even come close to getting stopped. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, this guy Fakhretdinov is never going to fucking finish anybody. And so now, I mean, not only am I looking at the over 2.5 at minus 140 and saying to myself, shit, man, do I max bet this? You know, because I'm not convinced that Fakhretdinov is anywhere in Kevin Lee's category when it comes to wrestling. There's no evidence to suggest that he is. You know, I mean, when you've been in the cage with the guys that Kevin Lee has been in, don't tell me that, you know, the win over Eric Spicely or Felipe Silva or, you know, Andreas Michailidis, you know, is of any consequence when you're talking about Kevin Lee being in there with top 5 guys basically for the last 5 years of his career. So what worries me is the size difference for Lee, you know, because he is really a blown up lightweight and Fakhretdinov fought most of his career at middleweight. So now they're meeting at 170 and there's one guy who's going to be clearly bigger than the other, and that's Fakhretdinov. But yeah, minus 140 for a Fakhretdinov fight, you know, where if Fakhretdinov is better than Lee, you know, he's gonna lay on top of him for 3 rounds. He's not gonna finish Kevin Lee. So unless Kevin Lee gets hurt, you know. So minus 140 is something where I'm potentially gonna back up the truck here because it's priced fairly. The juice is even on both sides. 3.41% juice here, 2.54% juice here. So it's fairly priced according to the benchmarks for the divisions. The stylistic read of this matchup is that it's going to be a wrestling match. Wrestling matches don't often finish. Fakhretdinov, not really a submission specialist. How many submissions does Kevin Lee have on his record? Let's have a quick look, Brady. Because this fight's not taking place on the feet.
Yeah.
Kevin Lee's got 8 submissions on his career and only 3 knockouts. And that's in 19 wins. So he's finished 8 wins by submission. I like the over, dude. That minus 140 could potentially be a parlay piece if you want to put together a parlay, or it could be just a big straight bet. But I'm taking a long look at that. I want to see where DraftKings opens it. I think people have the wrong read on this fight. I think people don't understand how massive of a step up in competition this is for a wrestler like Fakhretdinov to be fighting Kevin Lee.
You're telling me that Kevin Lee's better than Andreas Michailidis?
Yeah, surprisingly,
okay.
Yes, I am. Right. I am. Okay. And that's a genuine read because Michailidis is Greek. I'm Greek, and us Greeks, we stick together. But yeah, I have to admit that Kevin Lee, while he doesn't necessarily have the best IQ, that head tattoo, not the best IQ move there. Yep. But that dude can flat out wrestle, and we know that.
Yep. I'm curious to see where they put the finish only for Kevin Lee, because I really don't think Fakhretdinov's finishing Kevin Lee unless he is like really injured, and I don't know. But I would be shocked if Fakhretdinov finished Lee. I mean, he could. If you can't finish Michailidis or Battle, Lee's been finished a couple times in the UFC, but by like really, really, really good guys. Like RDA got him like late in the fight. So yeah, I just Fakhretdinov finish would really surprise me.
It would surprise me too. And and I've heard people say this, and Gogo Flamingo is saying it in the chat. He's saying Lee is a Muslim, which is hilarious. And here's why, Brady. Fakhretdinov has been on record saying he would never fight one of his Muslim brothers.
Wow.
And he's never fought a Muslim, right? So he's went on record saying that. And I remember somebody saying, I didn't know that Kevin Lee was a Muslim. And I remember somebody saying, don't nobody tell Renat that Kevin's a Muslim, right? And now I wonder if Renat is going to pull out, or if he's going to say, no, he's not a real Muslim because he converted, some shit like that. But it's kind of a funny narrative for this fight, because Renat has been on record saying he would never fight one of his Muslim brothers. Well, looks like you're willing to fight Kevin Lee. So what? Maybe Kevin Lee should take that personally.
Maybe this fight doesn't happen then. Maybe Fakhretdinov hears about this and pulls out. You never know.
Yeah, man. This whole discussion might all be for naught, because the fight might not happen now.
There we go. We might have to bring in somebody else for both these guys. So we'll see. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We have some more perceived violence. We have Bruno Ferreira going against Nursultan Ruziboev. We have the over-under is set at 1.5 rounds. It looks like we got the under 1.5 rounds at minus 225 now. So money's still coming in on that. The over 1.5 is plus 185. No other props. This is a very, very juiced under 1.5. I mean, we talked about the Brito under 1.5 at minus 260. I think they both go under, but I'm not as confident in this one, especially at minus 225. There's just a lot of unknowns for me. Ruziboev, I'm not sure really how good this guy is. He shows some solid skills, some solid power, solid grappling, but hasn't fought the best competition. But Bruno Ferreira hits like an absolute truck. I guess I lean towards it going under, but minus 225 just unplayable, and then I don't obviously have the balls to bet the over. So what I do like though is I like the Ferreira side. It's getting hammered though, like as we speak. Like it was like minus 150 for a little bit. I was gonna look at maybe playing the Ferreira money line or just maybe taking the Ferreira inside the distance at plus money. That's how I'm going to attack it, because I like the Ferreira side, but I think it's a violent fight here one way or another. Wheezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think it's a violent fight, but Ruziboev hasn't been finished since 2015.
That is true.
Ferreira's never been finished.
Yep.
And do they let you bring Shovel in to the octagon yet? Have they changed the rules?
I don't know. I don't think they do still. Yeah.
I mean, oh man, yes. I mean, we call that Sioux Falls rules. When you get to bring the old shovel into the cage. But I don't think they're on Sioux Falls rules here. So, you know, look, we're getting a 27.75% discount when we compare the benchmark for over 1.5 rounds, being at 63% for middleweights, but we're only paying 35%. In Ferreira, you got a guy who's never been finished. And in Ruziboev, the last guy to finish Ruziboev, if I'm not mistaken, might have been Albert Duraev's little brother. Let me look. So Ruziboev is 34-8-2. Okay, so this guy doesn't get finished much. His last loss was a long time ago to Boris Miroshenko back in 2019, decision. Murad Ramazanov, decision, not 2019. Oleg Dadonov, decision. Abasov, decision. Dzhokhar Duraev, back in ACB, back in 2017 was the last time that he got finished. Look at how handsome Dzhokhar Duraev is. The American flag here, other coaches, Albert Duraev. So I think this kid might be his nephew or his brother. That's the last guy to finish him. And we haven't seen Dzhokhar since like that fight and then the Jorge de Oliveira fight in 2018. He's taken 5 years off. And now he's got a fight coming up in United Fight League against Ashley Reese, who's 9-2. So keep an eye out for Albert Duraev's little brother. He's the last guy to finish Ruziboev. And like I say, that's 2017. Oh, no, wait, that was a decision. It was before that. It was Abadeyev and WEF Global. 2016. It's been 7 years since this dude's been finished. So just on the fact that both of these guys might be very durable, I could see maybe trying a plus 185 over 1.5, but oh my God, would it be sweaty, Brady? I mean, this guy Ferreira has never been over 1.5 rounds in his entire career, and that's been 10 fights. And Ruziboev has been only over 1.5 rounds 10 of 37 times in his career. So it would be a terrifying bet to make, but remember when Lou was saying about how if guys haven't lost before, sometimes you want to bet those overs because you don't know how durable they are. They could be incredibly durable, and you just don't know it yet because they haven't been tested. And this guy Ferreira, dude, he looks like he's built like a Mack truck, dude. He's huge. He's built like a refrigerator. So you got one tall, lanky guy who's like a submission specialist, great Kimuras, great length. And then you got a dude who's going to walk in like a Lego, like square, and he's as wide as he is tall. And when he touches you, you die. So I love violence here, but there's a reason why it's minus 225 for an under 1.5 and why we're overpaying 32% according to the benchmark.
Yeah, you know what scares me? I think Bruno Ferreira hits harder than a shovel, man. I really do. This guy hits so hard. But yeah, I mean, you can't lay this price tag on the under because, like you said, this Ruziboev, I mean, there's just a lot we don't know about him. He has so many fights, but I feel like I still don't know anything about the guy. So it might just be a good.
You want to hear something bizarre too, Brady?
Yeah.
So Ruziboev has got something like 40 some odd fights in like a 9-year career, but he's on an over a year layoff.
Wow.
Right? Isn't that bizarre? I mean, like. Yeah. For a guy that fights 7 fucking times a year to take a year off, and the last fight was against Pavel Masalski in WF Global. He won that one in the first round. That was April of last year. So it's been 14 months since he's fought, and he was wearing an Akhmat Fight Club shirt in that fight, and now he's listed at Renzo Gracie Philly. So my thought is maybe what happened was he won that fight. He moved to the United States, moved to Philly, and is training with the Renzo Gracie Philly boys and was, trying to find the right opportunity in the right fight. And then he got the short notice call here. So maybe he was just waiting for a short notice call. Maybe that's why we haven't seen him in 14 months. But I think a 14-month layoff for a guy who has 46 fights in 9 years is an interesting angle.
Yeah, it definitely is. And him moving to with the Philly boys, that's an interesting angle as well. That's scary.
Yeah, because like I say, the last tape, the most recent tape we have on this guy, he's at Akhmat Fight Club still. So, yep.
Very, very interesting stuff. Weird fight. Don't know if I'm gonna have anything on it, to be honest. We'll see though. All right. I mean, what could go wrong with juiced under 1.5s? Nothing. Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, come on.
No,
They all went great last week.
Yep, they went undefeated in a bad way last week.
Sure did.
All right. Let's keep moving on. We have Ismael Bonfim going against Benoit Saint Denis. We have the over under set at 1.5, the over 1.5 minus 184, the under 1.5 plus 154. The fight goes to decision plus 200. The fight doesn't go to decision minus 260. And to be honest, this kind of surprises me. I mean, Saint Denis is like next level tough. His striking defense is piss poor, but he's next level tough. And you take a look at Bonfim, he's not like some murderous finisher. I mean, he went to decision on the Contender Series. He went to decision like 4 fights in a row prior to the McKinney fight. McKinney's fights finish against anybody. So, could Bonfim finish him? Sure, but I think Bonfim's durable enough to last at least 1.5. So at 1.5, I kind of have some interest. Weezy, anything sticking out to you for this one?
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Because like when I saw the fight, I saw 1.5 instead of 2.5 rounds. I was like, oh, that's very interesting. I like the over just because I know that I can count on the durability of Saint Denis, and I know that Bonfim is a fantastic minute winner. I mean, he's undefeated in decisions in his career. Great boxing. And phenomenal defense. I mean, you don't really say that too often about guys, but I was looking at his striking defense in the Abasov fight and in his UFC debut against McKinney. His opponents were 57 out of 269 on their distance strikes, 21.2% accuracy. So that means his distance striking defense is 79%. So Ismael Bonfim is very hard to hurt. He's very hard to hit. He's very hard to finish. He has been finished in all of his losses, but the most recent finish came back in 2015, and it was against Renato Moicano. So, I mean, we can forgive him for that. And don't forget, Ismael Bonfim turned pro at the age of 15. You know, when he took his first fight in Shutu, Didi Pedernera said, we can't, there was one fight left. Ismael stepped up and took the fight. And Didi Pedernera, who's running the organization, says, we can't have this kid fighting. He's too young. So what did Ismael do? He got emancipated from his parents so that he could take that fight at the age of like 17, I think 16 or 17. Against a guy with like 20 professional fights, and he beat the dude. He beat him. So this guy is phenomenal. And I think that, maybe he could even just start finishing at this level. But at minus 184, we saw what kind of a beating Saint Denis. There's no quitting this dude. Plus 235 for the fight goes. This could be Saint Denis just wrestling nonstop for 3 rounds, and it could be a wrestling match. That's a fat fight goes to decision number, Brady. And at minus 184 for the over 1.5, I think that's even a potential parlay piece.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it at all. Bonfim, I don't know. He kind of takes his time in there. He's not like rushing for the finish. And kind of another narrative thing here. Dixon brought it up. I heard Vladislav Kislev is going to be making an appearance this next card in the Apex.
Man. Yeah, dude, I'll tell you something. Benoit Saint Denis would probably give him a hug because that's how crazy he is. I mean, his corner could have thrown in the towel too, easily. That second round was savagery. I mean, I remember when I watched it back, Brady, I was like, it's probably not going to be as bad as I remember it. It was worse than I remember it. I don't know how Saint Denis, survived that, but the dude is clearly not concerned with his own safety. So I like the overs here. And don't get me wrong, I am not under the impression that I would be surprised if either one of these guys got a finish. Both of these guys are savage finishers and really talented and dangerous mixed martial artists. But I think that they're both very durable at this point in their career, especially. And I think plus 235 in retrospect for Fight Goes could look like an absolute gift.
It could. I had the under 1.5 in the McKinney fight, and I was worried. Like, that almost did not hit. I think it cashed with like 10 seconds to spare, that McKinney fight.
Yeah, and you laid a ton of juice on it, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, probably like minus 150, minus 160.
And it was and I think it had a lot more to do with like McKinney just coming out in the second with nothing in the tank. That's not going to be Benoit Saint Denis here.
Yep. Breeze saying Bonfim by decision could be juicy. That was my first thought when seeing this fight. Same, especially with Saint Denis's chin, grappling skills, and expected some defense. Yeah, Bonfim by decision is like plus 325, which is interesting considering he's a minus 310 favorite. So they're expecting him to finish Saint Denis, and like you said, it could happen. Saint Denis blocks punches with his face, but he has a chin.
He also shoots for takedowns, so we're going to find out a lot about Ismael Bonfim's wrestling defense and submission defense in this fight, I think.
100%. All right. Let's keep moving on then. We have Melissa Gatto going against Ariana Lipsky. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 140, the under 2.5 plus 110. The fight goes the distance, minus 125. The fight doesn't go the distance, minus 105. I was taking a hard look at the under 2.5 at plus 125, but it kind of came back down. I think really either fighter can finish, but I do like Gatto here to get the finish. I mean, Lipsky's ground game offer back is just atrocious. I mean, getting starched by Montana De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko is inexcusable. I think Gatto's ground game is on another level here. So I like violence here, but I would have liked to get plus money. They kind of did me dirty there, Weezy. If it was plus 100, I was going to bet it, but they gave me minus 105. So I'm going to wait for FanDuel and DraftKings, but I will be betting violence one type of way, whether it's a Gatto into the distance or Gatto by sub, Gatto by knock. I'm going to be looking at some type of violence here, but I'm going to be staying away from the totals as of now. Anything sticking out here to you?
Yeah, I'm leaning violence here as well. It's not terribly overpriced, and I think the stylistic read with Lipsky's 4 of 9 fights finishing inside the distance, and for Gatto, it's 2 of 3. So, you've got 6 of 12, 50% of their fights, and you got a 51% price on the fight doesn't go, 46% price on the under 2.5. Excuse me. So, and stylistically, when this fight is on the feet, I think they're both fairly dangerous, but Ariane Lipsky really hits hard for this division. So I think on the feet, Lipsky's going to be dangerous, and everybody knows if this fight gets to the ground, whether Gatto's on the top or on the bottom, her submission grappling skills, very opportunistic, very dangerous. So I would definitely not lay minus 125 for Fight Goes here. I would be very nervous about laying juice when 50% of their fights have finished inside the distance. And also, I really kind of feel like Melissa Gatto is still at a point in her career where she's improving and getting better. What is she, 27 years old, 28 years old, Brady?
Yeah, which is scary because remember we were watching tape on her outside the UFC and she looked like a trashed bum, man. And then she comes in looking like, I'm like, who is this? What happened? They can make improvements so fast, and she is.
Yeah, and it was the Hosa fight, right? So she submits Carol Hosa and gets that win, and then she takes like 2.5, 3 years off. And that's why people, when she wound up just picking apart Leonardo from the outside, were like, wow. Like, talk about the improvements. Melissa Gatto is still only 27 years old, dude. So, we can still see improvements by leaps and bounds for this young lady. Great frame, nice, like, technical kickboxing. It looks really clean. And then the submission grappling, very opportunistic. So, yeah, I'd like to see some plus money, though. That's the way I'd like to get it, too. Minus 105 might be a little bit too much to pay, but it could hit.
Yeah.
I think both fighters are dangerous here. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst look here on the violence bets at plus 114 for under and minus 105 for the fight doesn't go.
Yep, I like it, and I like it quite a bit. Like, even in the Cortez Gatto fight, like, Gatto attempted some submissions against Cortez. Fortes is obviously good enough to get out of him, but Lipsky, I just don't think her ground game is that great. I mean, just a horrible look in that De La Rosa and Shevchenko fight. Like, she had no answer off her back, like nothing.
And to note, Brady, to bring up another Tracy Cortez fight, when she fought Erin Blanchfield, she took down Blanchfield in the first round. Blanchfield locks up an armbar. She's got her in an armbar for 4.5 minutes. And Cortez, just perfect submission defense the entire time. So, yeah, some people might be like, she couldn't submit Cortez. Well, neither could Erin Blanchfield. Neither could any of the other. Neither could Stephanie Egger. Neither could any of the fantastic grapplers that Tracy Cortez has been in the cage with. So, yeah, man, I do like the violence here, and I like the Gatto side.
No, I agree. I think it's a floor is lava type situation for Lipsky. Like, if this mat hits the mat, if this fight hits the mat, whether it's Gatto on top or bottom, I think Lipsky's in big trouble. So Lipsky better hope she can keep it on the feet. She was able to in her last fight against Aldrich, but we'll see if she can here.
Yeah. It's an interesting fight, but we haven't seen Melissa Gatto in a year either. So we could even see another big improvement from her. We'll see. I don't know if she was injured or not, though. There might have been an injury.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, we will see for sure. All right, let's move on to an interesting one. We got Max Griffin going against Michael Morales. We have the over-under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 155, the under 2.5 minus or plus 125. The fight goes minus 130. The fight doesn't go plus 100. Tricky one here for me. Max Griffin, just next level tough. 9 losses. 8 decision losses. Only finish loss comes to against Colby Covington by ground and pound. I don't know what to do with this one, Wheezy. Anything sticking out to you?
I like the over. And that's really just a play on the durability and toughness of Max Griffin. We know that Morales is a finisher, and we know that he's a prospect with a really high ceiling. Been in the gi since he was a little child. Both parents black belts in judo. Really, so he's got a big time martial arts background. He's huge for the weight class. He's super young. He's got crazy power. He's even shown the ability to kind of, go to a plan B and a plan C when plan A isn't really working. So I really like what I see from Morales, but this is a tough test for him. Max Griffin's been in there with some really good guys, some really top-notch competition. And, even like when he lost to Neil Magny, I thought he won that fight. So it's not like this guy hasn't been in there with the top-notch guys, with the top 15 guys. Morales is not top 15 yet. He's got to get wins over guys like Max Griffin and other guys of that ilk in order to get a number next to his name. So I kind of feel like to assume that Morales is going to go in there and finish Max Griffin might be a little bit foolish here. And I think that this fight's going to play out pretty close as well, because Griffin's really not getting blown out by anybody in the UFC. So I think that this is going to be a show me spot for Morales, but minus 130, fight goes to decision. Only 6% overpriced when we compare it to the benchmark. So instead of just taking 3% vig and putting it in both lines, we see about a 3% shift towards the nonviolent side. But we're getting good numbers here. 10 of 16, Brady. 10 of 14 for Max Griffin and 0 of 2 for Michael Morales. And even one of those fight goes to decision. It has to do with ripping off Brahim Ajazir. He wasn't really anywhere close to finishing him.
Yeah.
It was just that the dude's ear was hanging by a thread that fight finished. So, yeah, dude, minus 130 is a pretty good line. I think it's bettable, and I think it hits.
Yep. Right there with you. Same exact read. I think it goes the distance. I think it's a close and competitive fight as well. I think a split decision's on the table as well. And yeah, minus 130 I don't think is terrible for a Max Griffin fight. I think it's tough to see. I know Morales is super dangerous, but Max Griffin's his toughness. He's fought some really good guys, really dangerous guys. I like it as well. Minus 130 I don't think is terrible by any means whatsoever. I think it's very solid.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair price to play. What might be a cheeky little parlay that'll get you some good plus money is fight goes to decision for this one, and the over 2.5 for Lee and Fakhretdinov at minus 140. I don't like laying juice, but if I can get 2 plus EV bets that are both juiced, parlay them together for plus money, that's not a bad read. And another one that I was putting together earlier that I didn't pull the trigger on was the over 1.5s in the Saint Denis fight and in the Blagoy fight. You can get plus 138 by parlaying those over 1.5s there, and I think that's also a good play.
You said that came out to plus 138?
Plus 138 earlier in the day on Bet Online.
Nice. Yeah, I like it. I like all three of those. And I'm not really an overs guy, but those make it so much sense to me.
Yeah, and I hate laying juice, but like I say, if I can find 2 plus EV spots with the prop template where the stylistic read, matches up as well, that's going to be something I'm going to try to do a little bit more of.
Yep, don't hate it. Holy crap! How are we 55 minutes in? It feels like
I've been running my mouth, dude.
It feels like we just started like 20 minutes, 55 minutes. That's to be fake. That's fake, right?
I think it's fake news, dude. I think that's somebody's trying to pull a fast one on us here. The
Holy
StreamYard's been crazy lately.
I could have swore it said like 30 minutes, like 5 minutes ago. So I guess for 55 minutes, yeah, we better get rolling.
Time flies when you're having fun, man.
I guess so. We have 2 fights left, though. We got Damir Ismagulov going against Grant Dawson. The over-under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5, minus 220, under 2.5, plus 180. The fight goes minus 200. The fight doesn't go plus 160, and I'm taking a hard look at that fight. Doesn't go plus 160 there. We've seen Grant Dawson be a finisher, get finishes, and get a lot of late finishes too. I think he has like 3 or 4 third-round finishes in the UFC. Damir Ismagulov, the complete opposite, though. I don't think he's finished anybody in the UFC, and I don't think he's ever been finished in the UFC. But we have a striker versus grappler matchup where Damir Ismagulov, although Dawson has been making improvements in the striking, Damir is going to be the better striker. We have seen Dawson knocked out before. And then on the flip side, we've seen Damir Ismagulov give up his back. Dawson has good back takes, really good grappler. We have the whole narrative stuff with Damir Ismagulov. I think the fight doesn't go at plus 160 is something that I'm considering this week. Weezy, anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, Grant Dawson round 3 and Grant Dawson fight doesn't go to decision bets have been something that I've just been cashing on like crazy ever since I first started gambling. I'm a big believer in Grant Dawson's style, and his style is the exact kind of style that you expect third round finishes from. A draining grappling pace, where every takedown you have to be so careful about your back being taken that you can never be enthusiastic about even trying to get back up. And so he wears on people. And then as the fight goes on, he gets to more and more dominant positions. The takedowns get to be easier and easier. And Grant is just absolutely fantastic at finding that rear naked choke. I think he's very underrated with his submissions. And I think he's very underrated with his grappling. And I think everything that he does is so functional and so clean and so meat and potatoes. I'm going to finish you with the most basic and the most useful ways to finish fights. You take somebody down, you absorb very little damage, you get to the back, and you either win minutes or you finish the fight. You get in, you get paid, you absorb no damage, and then you repeat. And that's what Grant Dawson's been doing for his entire UFC career. And with the narrative, Brady, it's the narrative. This guy, Ismagulov, already retired. He retired on New Year's Day, like you said, talking about the reason for his retirement was health problems, And then he says, oh, I didn't know I had one more fight left on my contract. So how about you pay me for this fight? I'll show up for it, and then I'll retire. Well, I mean, if that's your mindset going into the fight, and then Grant Dawson gets that takedown at the beginning of the second round, and he gets to your back, and you say to yourself, shit, there's 9 minutes left in this fight. And if I can't stop this guy getting to my back, then why not just tap now? I get paid the same if I tap now than I do if I ride out 9 minutes with this prick on my back who won't go away, who won't fuck off, who won't stop wrestling. So plus 160, fight doesn't go to decision is probably a bet that I'm going to get to. But it's a tale of 2 fighters, isn't it, Brady? 0 of 6 fights go, finish inside the distance for Ismagulov, but for Dawson, it's 5 of 8. So I could see the over 1.5 hitting and the fight doesn't go to decision hitting as well. I think that could be a cheeky way to play this one. because Grant's not getting early finishes. And frankly, Damir Ismagulov's never even knocked anybody down in the UFC. I don't even think he has a knockdown. So, like, is he finishing Grant Dawson? No. So maybe over 1.5 and fight doesn't go to decision, and try to play for that finish in the last 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up a good point though. Like, does Damir finish Dawson? Like,
no,
I don't think so. So why not?
Man, he's not finishing Dawson, dude.
So why not Dawson? Like, round three is like plus, what is it? Plus 1,100. That's actually not bad for Bet Online standards, right? Like,
it's
maybe we get like a plus 1,500 on FanDuel or something. It might be something crazy this week.
Yeah, and I looked at that minus 200 for the Dawson finish only. That makes sense. It's
minus 200.
It makes very good sense. The narrative issues are just the cherry on top, but just Dawson's a finisher and Damir's not, plain and simple. So that's I think a good bet. Grant Dawson finish only, but I mean, fight doesn't go to decision at plus 160, or maybe even just go Dawson inside the distance at better than plus 200.
Yeah,
maybe that's how I play it.
That's what I was thinking too. Maybe just some Dawson inside the distance, because I don't know. I don't think Damir finishes Dawson. Like, Dawson, he's super tough. Like, his only knockout loss wasn't it like a knee, I think it was like a knee or something that landed on him and knocked him out.
Yeah, and it was pre UFC too.
It was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And he used to cut down to 145 back in the day. So I could see him being less durable at 145 than he is now at 155.
Yeah, for sure. But I think some type of violence in this fight is definitely very sneaky, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is. And like I say, I've been going back to the well over and over and over again with Dawson violence props, and I don't see why it stopped now.
This is very interesting. This is why we love the chat. Dixon bringing some next level research here. He's saying, Brady and Weezy, in my research this week, I discovered that Damir doesn't actually have a twitch or a tick. When he blinks and fights, he's just winking at different women in the crowd. He has like 7 wives like Zalgas. Can you believe that?
Man, look at him. He's out there just killing these hoes, Brady. I did not even know that, man. The Kazakh Casanova. That's going to be the new nickname for Damir Ismagulov. The Kazakh Casanova. You heard it here first.
Heck yeah, I like it. Thank you for Dixon for letting me know. Now I know why he was going crazy. He must have had like 20 wives in the last fight. He was going crazy in his last fight with that, man. All right, let's move on to the main event. We got Sean Strickland going against Abus Magomedov. We have the over-under set at 3.5 rounds. The over 3.5 minus 140. The under 3.5 plus 110. The fight goes plus 150. The fight doesn't go is minus 180. Money's coming in on the fight goes. Money's coming in on these overs. I don't know, man. You take a look at Abus. When he fights, they don't last long at all. Like, when Abus fights, it's like that. And like for like the majority of his fights, they're quick. So if Abus wins this fight, I kind of see him finishing it early. And what does Abus look like if this fight gets to the third, fourth, and fifth round? I think Abus has been scheduled for some 5-round fights, but I think all of them have finished in the first round. So I would actually be looking at I know it's a Sean Strickland fight, but I'm going to look for some violence here potentially. I already bet the Abus finish only at plus 110. I beat some line movement. It looks like it's minus 145 now, but if this does get late and Abus is like tired, gassing out, maybe Sean Strickland does finish him late. So I think violence is absolutely the answer here in this fight, but it looks like money's coming in these over, so I might just sit back and wait, see if I can get a better price. But I lean violence just because this Abus guy, he gets in and gets out in a lot of his fights.
Dude, I mean, how do you bet fight goes to decision, right? When you got Abus Magomedov, who's got 26 professional fights in a 13-year career, and his average fight time is 5.18 minutes, right?
That's wild, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a Sean Strickland fight, but I mean, like, this guy is fighting, like his life depends on it, and he's not looking to get paid by the minute. It's just not his style. 26 professional fights. He's 3-1-1 in decisions. So that means over 80% of his fights have finished inside the distance. And like you said, Brady, we could see it right here on the prop template. Abus Magomedov has had 5 fights scheduled for 5 rounds in his career. All 5 of them have finished in the first round.
It's wild. Yeah.
So like even when it's a 5-round fight, and his coaches are like, Abus, Take your time. Win some. He's like, fuck no, man. I'm starching this hoe. And he just goes out there and he does that. And not only that, he's been finished a couple of times in 5-round fights as well. So it looks like Abus has no interest in fighting a 25-minute game plan to win minutes. If you're scheduling him for 5 rounds, he's trying to get out of there in 5 minutes. So, yeah, minus 180 for the fight doesn't go to decision is a little bit overpriced compared to the benchmark, which is a little bit scary in a Sean Strickland fight.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
Because all 4 of his fights in the UFC that have been scheduled for 5 rounds have went the full 5. And he's 3-1 in those fights. And the one that he lost was a coin flip to Cannonier. Could have went either way. So it's another one of those interesting stylistic matchups. We got a few of them, right? We got Strickland Magomedov. Magomedov, pure finisher. Strickland decisionator. Ismagulov Dawson, where Ismagulov is definitely a decisionator, but Dawson is out there finishing fights. You've got the Ruziboev Ferreira fight where both guys fight like they're triple parked. And then you've got the Brito Wilson fight, which is there's going to be a funeral shortly thereafter. And then you got Romanov Ivanov, where you got Romanov out there finishing fights, and Ivanov couldn't finish a banana, and you're not allowed to bring a shovel into the cage, so you're not finishing him because they're not doing Sioux Falls rules. So it's a very interesting card with a lot of interesting stylistic matchups, Brady.
It really is.
I do like violence though for this main event.
Yeah, if I had to pick it, it's violent just because of the way Abus fights. So we'll see. I'm gonna keep waiting though. It looks like money's coming on these overs, which I get it. It's a Sean Strickland fight, but it's also an Abus Magomedov fight.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, I mean it's definitely interesting. What I might look for violence here is like an under 1.5 or something.
Yeah.
Like get it for Abus's best win condition. Where if that doesn't happen, you might see Strickland actually land a big shot, get him out of there, or you might see Abus do what he's been doing, which is just finishing fights early.
Yep, 100%. I think if Abus wins, it's probably in that first round, and they're kind of over it. They're kind of onto it. Magomedov in the first round's plus 600.
Yeah, that's not very juicy for a 5-round fight.
No, not at all for a 5-round fight, and he's the dog. So
and he's the dog, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean it's an interesting week. I mean there's some spots sticking out, a lot of over sticking out this week as well. There's some obvious violent spots, but they're minus 264 and under. That's wild. I wonder if that's gonna. Do you think that'll move anymore? Like minus 2. Do you think it'll get to like minus 300 for that Brito under?
I think that line is priced in a place where literally nobody's gonna bet either side.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
They might have actually priced it perfectly to where you can't go either way there.
Yeah, you can't. All right, Weezy, we did it. The PP last week did not come through, so we got to get it back this week. What are we thinking?
So I kind of looked at that Rosa over for the first fight. The Lee Fakhretdinov over 2.5 rounds at minus 140. I think that's a potential parlay piece. The Bonfim Saint Denis over 1.5 rounds at minus 184, I think is a parlay piece. The over 1.5 rounds for Ivanov versus Romanov could potentially be a parlay piece, but we won't really know that until we see Romanov on the scale or until we start to hear whether he actually trained for this fight or not. And then the Griffin Morales fight goes to decision at minus 130, I think is a decent spot too. So there were 5 actually that I thought were parlayable. Non-violence in that Santos Rosa fight, over 1.5s in Ivanov versus Romanov, and in Bonfim versus Saint Denis, and then over 2.5s in Lee Fakhretdinov and Griffin Morales. And then if we want to just like have some fun, we could throw like a fight doesn't go for the Ruziboev fight or the, what was that one? The Brito Wilson fight, which should be like minus 17,000 for fight doesn't go. But yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we can parlay that minus 260, but it's probably a parlay piece. I mean, it probably hits 90% of the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, unless Brito doesn't show up and want to fight, but Brito doesn't strike me as a guy that doesn't want to show up and fight. I mean, he doesn't strike me as that type of fighter. So,
And wait, Brady, what about the fight doesn't go for the main event? I mean, couldn't you see Strickland maybe getting a late finish if Abus doesn't get him out of there in a round or two? You know, we've never seen Abus go into the fourth round before in his entire career. So your second UFC fight, it's only his second fight like in the last 3 years too, against an opponent like Strickland who's going to be in your face just talking shit to you, you know, while he's jabbing you up. Yeah, maybe that's a good parlay piece too. It's just fight doesn't go for the main event, but it is a Sean Strickland fight, so that worries me a little bit too.
Yeah, it does. Let's try to narrow it down to 2. What do you think?
All right.
They're like all the same to me. Like they're all like decent for me. I like the Fakhretdinov one a lot because I really don't see him finishing anybody, and that's minus 140, which is very, very playable. So I like that one.
And then I'm thinking, because we're missing a little bit of information on Romanov, maybe we go with that over 1.5 for Bonfim Saint Denis, or maybe the fight doesn't go for the main event. What do you think?
We can do a double over here, a double over parlay.
Do the Bonfim Saint Denis over 1.5?
Yep, and that's minus 189.
Yeah, minus 184 now.
84. And that comes out to plus 164 for those two.
Let's do a plus 164 PP. Stop the violence parlay with 2 overs. Lead Fakhretdinov. We're going to stop the Muslim on Muslim violence, and then we're going to stop the Brazilian on French violence. You know, we're stopping violence all over the place here on the MMA Engine, on Probability, on YouTube, on Brady's birthday. Stopping the violence. It stops now.
Stop it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop. All right, Weezy. This show flew by. We're an hour and 11 minutes in, and this is only a 12-fight card, but it was a fun show. I think a lot of spots stuck out. What are your plans for the rest of the week? You have some guest appearances. You have Just a Tip. Anything else going on?
Yeah, Just a Tip, Tuesday night, 10. Wednesday, we're doing the DFS show on Pub Sports Radio. Wednesday night, I'll be going live with my guy Patrick, Addicted to Combat, on his channel. And I think that'll be it for the week. Yeah, and looking forward to stacking cash tickets like flapjacks on this card. And like I said, it's a fascinating card. I think it got me talking more than I usually do on this show, but we had fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it too, and let's get them this week.
Let's get them, yeah, guys. Should be an interesting one for sure. Don't forget to leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. I did post my full card breakdown prediction video. I did almost have a stroke breaking down the Luana Carolina fight, so go check that out. It was rough. I almost stopped the video, but I pushed through it. But yeah, guys, good luck. It should be a fun card. And then we have UFC 290 next week, which is going to be fun as well. Best of luck, UFC Vegas 76. We'll talk to you guys soon. See you.